sincerely thank you for coming, because one thing I've realized in the last few years is it doesn't matter what you have in life. It matters about your family and your friends.
Yep.
And that's who's here right now, okay? And that's what I care about, and I really appreciate it. For so many of you, family and friends who have put up with me for many years, different wives, different girlfriends, different women. They're not here, but I'm happy to report that I'm done with that. Okay? Okay. After this one, I'm not going to have any more. And
Not after.
Gonna get in trouble one way or the other.
Getting the most started.
I want to thank Sandy and Marilyn for helping to get me and Silka together. Okay, I really appreciate that. And thank you all for coming. I'm going to pass this mic over to my partner of 30 years, Phil Arbuck. Albert.
That's what I always say, Phil. That's what I sure to do.
I would like to acknowledge that we're the only firm in town, since we've been business partners for 30 years, that has a no pantsing policy. Because one day, when the whole firm was down in Arizona, X2 and I went up the stairs, and we were on the balcony, and the whole firm was milling around below, and Al came running up the stairs. I had tennis shorts on with boxers underneath, so he thought he was just going to pull my tennis shorts down. He pulled everything down, and I went inside, and my X2 said, "What happened?" And I said, "Al pantsed me in front of everybody." And he said,
He did.
So
It was an accident. It could happen to anybody.
So I get a phone call, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to apologize. And I pick up the phone, and I hear this rendition of "It's a Small, Small World" being sung over the phone.
It wasn't me singing, it was all the other people.
Do you
Does that make it better or worse?
Do you have the picture?
Well, it's way out in the hangar.
Oh, okay. So when you get out in the hangar, you can see another one of my adventures with Al. We used to take these tax-deductible vacations, and we took one to Hawaii. And I remember Al and I were sitting in the bar, and he looks at me and he goes, "Phil, you know what? We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be. We're sitting in the bar drinking." That's what our wives at that time directed us to do. So after the bar was finished and we're about to get in our cars and leave, Al is walking out of the hotel, and he's looking for his X2 at the time, and he noticed...
There's a lot of X's in this story.
It's an algebra story. And so he notices that he has...
Insurance problems.
He notices that he has a camera in his hand. So he thought he would go into the women's restroom, raise up the camera, and snap it, and he hears this voice say, "What do you?" Excuse me. So he runs out of the bathroom and says to Jeff and Scott, "We got to get out of here." And so they get in the car and they leave, and he didn't develop it until he got home. You can see that picture in the hangar, because I had it blown up at his 40th? 50th. It's this woman sitting on the toilet.
It's in the bathroom. It's in the bathroom in the hangar.
In the
Bathroom in the hangar, if anybody wants to see
with
it.
a wad of toilet paper with her knees so tightly pressed, looking up like, ah.
It's like so bad. We still don't know who it is.
We
If
should
you
have.
recognize her, please don't tell her.
So anyway, it's been a great run, 30 years with Al as my partner, and I'm glad we hooked up. It's been through thick and thin, and I appreciate you. Tell me about the spoons.
Phil loved playing spoons with us. That was great. We did a houseboat trip to Lake Powell once, and on the houseboat trip, one of the things we did was play spoons. And I think this tradition started before me, but if you're winning the game of spoons and you really want to mess everybody else up, you grab your spoon, but you throw the rest of them across the room. And then everybody else gets to fight and dive for them and stuff. So that was fun.
The
It was kind of
boys, no competition stops them. They dove for those spoons across.
Chairs are tipping over, tables are flipping.
it was full contact spoons. Anyway, Dad, thanks for everything. I wouldn't be what I am at all if it wasn't for you. Everything I am professionally and personally is all due to you.
What are you holding
Look
up?
at that.
Boost your brain power.
It's an art publication. I
Yeah.
post that shit every week.
So my mental problems are his fault too. But anyway, seriously, thank you and happy birthday, Dad.
Happy day, Albert.
Thank you, Lee. Robin, Sandy.
Well, we haven't known Al quite as long as some of you have known Al, but we're very grateful that he's invited us into his nest, even after my dog started killing his livestock.
It was your dog. You're the one.
So we still get invitations back, so we're very grateful, Al. Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
I just remember Al saying, Sandy, can you invite some friends over? Can we have a party? Can we have a Cirque du Soleil party here? And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, we could probably do that. And then, can you invite some single girlfriends over? I was like, yeah, I could probably do that. And actually, we all met. Silka and I were out riding with Marilyn, and Al joined us probably 3 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And then Al and your friend Steve or Scott came for a backstage tour at O.
Oh, yeah, Scott
Right?
Stewart.
Yeah. And you were married at the time. Silka was married at the time. And then Silka and I were still riding out in Calico, and then the two of them became single. And then I thought, these two have so much in common. And especially when you were raising pigeons or rescuing pigeons in your backyard. And then we see that you have pigeons. It's like, oh my God. This is a little too kismic. There's too much synchronicity here. So June 5th last year, we came out for the races at Sandy Valley Ranch, and Silka was there. And then Al kept calling, are you coming over with some friends? It's like, yeah, we're coming over with some friends. So that night we came over, and Silka jumped in the lake in nothing but her G-string. So we went swimming. And he met the European, and that's what they do in Europe, go skinny dipping. And that was it. And then Rob and I were in the rowboat bringing grapes to them and more wine to them and and then they disappeared. We're like, I wonder where they went. And that was it. They've been together ever since. So we're happy about that. Congratulations and happy birthday.
Gosh, I've had the best life with Albert and Jeff and Scott. Like, I would not be who I am without those three in my life. And my sisters, of course. But Albert, you changed my life. The year I got to go live with you, and I was going into 11th grade and had a bit of a rough start there with Howie and Irene. But Albert sat me down and he said, how do you want people to see you? You're going to a brand new school, nobody knows you. How do you want people to look at you? And I thought about that. I remember exactly where we were. We were sitting on the couch at Cortez Court on that dark kind of velvety wine color couch. And he said, you can be anybody. Do you want them to know that you always tell the truth? He named all these different things. And that was probably one of the biggest impacts of my entire life. And I remember I thought, I want to be just like my mom. I always want to tell the truth. I always want to be kind. And I remember going to the school and thinking, okay, that's what I want to do. I know Jeffrey's smiling at me. He's like, that's what you were doing? Okay, I was a little punk rock at the time, so it probably didn't look like that, but anyway, I was trying. But I'm so grateful that you have been my brother, but also my father, and I'm very blessed. And there's so many crazy things that Albert has done, that I can't even comprehend all of them because there's too many. But I know that Jeff and Scott and I had a lot of fun when we were little, just wrestling and playing practical jokes on you. It was good. It's been a great time, and I'm so grateful that you're turning 70, and here's to turning 80 and 90. And Silka, I'm so glad you guys are together. So
you know what we say? You're it.
You're it.
So I'll just kind of dovetail with Juliana a little bit there. There's a lot of things I could say about Albert, the stories that I've heard over the last several years. I know, right? And the stories the dogs could tell. Should I give this to the dogs? The stories they could tell. So, but I think the most important thing, the stories are great. The life that Albert has lived with his family and his friends it's amazing. It simply is. It's a great story. And, well, he wrote about it. Is that on Amazon? But the most important thing that I take away from all of that is the connection he's had with his friends and family, and how supportive he has been to his sisters, and how important they've been to him is proven to me every single time we talk about Albert and Patty and Chris and Jew, and it's just thank you for taking care of your family, and happy birthday.
Hi, my name is Dana, and I'm one of Albert's newer friends through Patty. I'm an LPGA golf pro and work for Marilyn across the street.
Dana's my only friend in it. Through Albert.
So I thought I would write a little cowgirl poetry for Al. Okay. Happy birthday, Al Marquis. You're turning 70? I cannot believe. With all your energy and cheerful laughter, 40 is the age you'll be forever after. Your pickleball skills, horsemanship talent, and all-around glee reveals to us your zest for life, which we can all agree. Happy birthday, Al.
Hey, Gypsy, what do you have?
Okay.
Gypsy Valley.
I got something written. I've got something written down too.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm Ted, and Al and I went to the Air Force Academy together. I think we met each other on our second day there in the back of the bus going, this place really sucks. We are in big trouble here. People want to do all this stuff to us, and we don't want to do it, and things like that. But while we were there, I found out that Al, like me, was blessed with a lot of sisters and no brothers. He had 3 and I had 4, and we love sisters and everything, but you like to have a brother once in a while. And as the years have passed, we always say, God, it's like you're the brother I never had, which sounds good, but I think, we've all read Dumbass Luck. I've had a few scrapes of my own, and I guarantee if we had been brothers, I don't think we would have lived past like 12. I asked a couple of our friends if they would remember Al, and something I could say here, and one of them, John Gunny, wrote, and he's quoting Mark Twain, and that's why I'm writing this. It says, but on Mark Twain's 70th birthday, he said, I've achieved my 70 years in the usual way, by sticking strictly to a scheme of life which would kill anybody else. Anyway, it's been my fun to live through some of those with Al. It never killed me. I'll tell you one quick story. When we were freshmen, every time at the Air Force Academy, there's dorms around a terrazzo. And every time a freshman went out, you had to be at attention, and there were marble strips in the aggregate and just went on forever. We marched meals on it and things like that. But anytime you were out there, you had to walk on the marble strips and square corners, and you had to double time out there. So it's Sunday in February or something like that, and Al comes over. He would live right across the hall. He says, God, we got to go out. It's snowing outside. And we go outside, and there's about 6 inches of snow. And we run out there in our parkas and everything, and somebody, I don't remember if it was me or Al, picks up a snowball and throws it. Well, that's the end of that. In a nanosecond, we're in a huge snowball fight, just having a great time. Now at the academy, there were people like us that took life a little easier and more laid back. And then there were the other half of the people were what we called military heroes. It's sort of like in constitutional law. There's strict constructionists and liberal constructionists. And we were definitely the liberal ones, and there were some strict ones around, and they nail you for anything. And so we're out there throwing snowballs, and one of the upperclassmen came out screaming at us. I mean, he was so mad. He had tears in his eyes and something about just getting back from some trip, and he was so proud of his country and the military academy and the United States Air Force Academy, and here you yo-yos out here and on and on.
Snowball fighting. Can't believe it.
It was cadet second class Smiley or something. Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yeah. But the funny thing is, I had my camera with me, and I still have a picture at home with Al throwing a snowball at me. Anyway, there were a lot of instances like that. And what John goes on to write about, and what I want to talk about, is Al is the glue for us friends. He's brought us down here many times. He's kept us in touch, just like all of you. And I do love him like a brother. And Al, I'm eternally grateful for what you've added to my life. And I've enjoyed it, and I look forward as I turn 70, old man. And we got many more years left. So happy birthday, my good friend.
Well, I've just come into the Marquis family about in the last 4 to 5 years, and the one thing that I will say is, and I grew up with 6 brothers, so I know, but you know what? Albert has been like a major brother to me, and the one thing I will say is that Albert is so kind and so generous, and I have to kind of say the same thing about how Albert brings everybody together. You know, you make things happen and you make things fun. And there's never a dull moment. I mean, there's honking horns at 7 o'clock in the morning. And let's go for a bike ride, get to the yoga studio, and, you know, animals run amok, and just everything is always delightful. And it's just great. And I don't know what else to say other than I really love you, Albert, and thank you for bringing me into the family.
Thank you, Jim.
Happy birthday, Albert.
Okay, I'll try and do this without crying, but it's not going to work. So we did not grow up with the best father, but Albert changed that around, and he is the best dad and had the 2 best sons, the 2 nicest young men I know. So way to go, Albert. The best. And he's been the best brother to me, like my best friend since I was a little teeny baby. He saved me from the crazy lunatic that I was married to up in Alaska. When our mom called Albert and said, Patty's in big trouble up in Alaska, Albert got on a plane from Vegas and flew with me to Anchorage and pretty much saved my life. So, and he saved my life quite a few times, but that was just one. So he could not be a better man. When I talk about my brother, I said he has the biggest heart, the most generous spirit of anybody I know. Okay, now on a lighter note, son, you're trying to make my face whiter when you're doing your thing. So, Albert and I have had more funny times. Like, they had this snake called Norton. Was that his name?
Her name.
Yeah, so she's a girl snake, and she's a python?
No. Boa constrictor.
Boa constrictor. So I'm swimming in their pool all by myself, minding my own business. Albert sneaks home, takes the boa constrictor out, lets it loose in the pond, and it wraps itself around my body. And so, like, I'm like, Albert, get that snake out of the water. It's drowning me. So a couple months And Albert comes in with his flight bag, and I said, meet me there for lunch, and we're gonna go play golf. And so he's got his flight bag, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. Who brings their manuals into the golf course? But I'm like, don't think anything of it. And a little while later, the bartender goes, Mr. Marquis, would you get your snake? So he lets the big box out, and Norton is wandering, weaving its way through the bar stools in the bar. And then that same day, Pro V1s or some fancy Titleist ball just came out, and so we're on the first tee, and I throw Albert $12 worth of golf balls, 3 golf balls, $4 a whack. And he hits the first one, and it goes zinging out into the parking lot, bounces off some cars over the fence.
That parking lot was really close.
Puts another one down, zings into the parking lot, bouncing off a few cars, and I'm like, well, there's $8. And he tees up another one, zings it into the parking lot, and turns to me and says, do you have any more? And then another time on the golf course, Albert and I have had more fun on the golf course than probably any 2 people. And we're playing at the dunes. Yeah. And I'm a golf pro, so they let us play for free, give us a free cart. So you want to mind your P's and Q's when you're out there, right, Dana? Yeah, you're just trying to, be good. So they give us the free cart, and Albert's over hitting his shot, and I'm hitting mine, and our cart's like from here to Silka's house, and I look over, and the cart is going full speed with our clubs on it into the pond. And I yell, Albert! And he covers his head because he thinks the ball's coming at him. And then he is running full speed, and I'm like, the cart! And he had to get in the cart, and it's halfway in the pond and pull it out. But we've just had the best time. Albert and I grew up playing basketball, hanging out with our dogs, playing golf together, and riding bikes, and now we're old and we do exactly the same thing. Happy birthday, Albert. I couldn't have a better brother on the planet.
So, like Scott, most of what makes me up is from my dad. And there's been a lot of good things, and a few that probably were not things that I should have emulated. I mean, we've jumped off of everything imaginable and from our house into for a 2-story house into a swimming pool that was a long way away from the
Jeffrey,
deck.
it was like that balcony, and the pool started right here.
Well, one was that balcony, and then there was the roof that was on top of that.
So it was bad.
Oh, don't be a baby! Come on. Jumping off of every cliff imaginable at the lake, skydiving together, going bungee cord jumping together, going on ski runs we should have never skied down, and having all kinds of dangerous near-death activities on Lake Mead, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I wanted to outdo him, and I was going to do my best. But having read Dumbass Luck myself, I realized I want no part of trying to outdo him. So I've inherited a few of my quirky bad habits from him as well, but mostly it has been good. And reading the book and knowing what kind of family that my dad came from, it is very surprising to me that he could turn that around so well and make our lives so easy, so much fun growing up. And we would have little talks every once in a while. We wouldn't really look forward to the little talks, but we knew that they... really long. But so many of them stick with me, from grades to jobs to girls, and I'm not sure about the girls part, but he had... Do as I say is maybe his the better way to put it for him when it comes to the women of his life. But I remember all those, and I mean, he got me to turn my grades around. It wasn't ever terrible, but he got me to really live up to what I thought I should do. When it came to jobs, he was kind of hands off, but he would push where he needed to push, and I really feel like I have gained all of that from listening to him and watching him. And I'll tell you, big shoes to fill. I mean, most of you don't know everything that my dad has done, and I don't know everything that my dad has done. But I'm talking on the positive side once again. I mean, really fighting for what he believes in. I mean, when we were kids, he was out at the nuclear test site with Carl Sagan and protesting, and he's written hundreds of letters to the editors about things that he really cares about, things that he wants to, that he's mad about, that he wants to get fixed. He dressed up as Santa Claus one time, and we went into North Las Vegas with these disadvantaged kids, and it was really moving. And I think about that as I'm a father, and I'm almost out of the point now where I'm giving the day-to-day guidance to my girls. But it's been so easy for me because I had such a good role model to emulate that after. And I think that, but he was the one that turned it around. It's easy for everybody after that. If you have good parents, good upbringing, it's easy to know what to do with your kids. But if you don't have that and you're still able to do it, that's what's really commendable. So happy birthday, Dad. Love you.
Okay, we were in Paris, France in a taxi cab. Al's riding shotgun. I'm in the back with Marilyn and Jamie, Jackie, what's her name?
Triple X.
Thomas. All right. And on this trip, we were there for 7 days. We were on a barge cruise going through Burgundy, France. And a barge moves very slowly, so Al had a lot of downtime. And Marilyn speaks perfect French. So Al hits Marilyn up for all these one-liners. And he's got his little notepad, and he's writing down every one-liner that Marilyn gives him, and he's practicing them. And he keeps it in his top pocket. Every day this went on, right? So now we're in this taxi cab. The barge cruise is over. Now we're in Paris, France, and we're going to fly out the next day. And we're in the cab, and Al decides to, be debonair and throw a one-liner at the cab driver. The cab driver turns to him and responds. Marilyn, get him out of this trap. He just trapped himself, Marilyn. Get him the hell out of here. And the cab drivers just had a look of disgust when he realized what he really was. A one-liner. Happy birthday, Al.
All I really need to do is ask for a glass of wine and where's the bathroom?
Oh, good. Well, I hate to follow family members and good speakers. Good grief. I've known Al, and I haven't counted the years, but it's up there.
25.
25? Wow. Seems like it. There are two sides to this wonderful man. There's a very sweet, kind side, and then there's the rascal. And my favorite Al story, and we in fact I think revisited this on your last big birthday party, where we sang him a song about flying up into the wild blue yonder. But
let the dogs have their way for just a second.
You just don't want the story told. So Al and I had bought an airplane together, but this was after he had this incident. And that was when we flew all over the country and had more great family times in that airplane, going hither and thither, playing pool everywhere we landed. It was really quite exciting and good flying, thanks to Al. But anyhow, so he was flying his twin-engine airplane, and he was flying home from the ranch, I believe. And all of a sudden, one of the engines died. So he's scrambling to relight this engine and get really airborne well again, but no luck. So he had to do a crash landing. And he fortunately saw a big, like a
gravel pit.
Gravel pit, yeah, big gravel pit. And it looked pretty flat around, and so anyhow, he manages to get the airplane down. Oh my God, and thank goodness he was alone. And they're zooming across the gravel as he hits it, and it runs right into a big mound of gravel, obviously. And the prop is all bent, and the plane is all wrecked up and unflyable. So he walks to the home of the people that were the caretakers and makes a phone call. Well, turned out to be not one phone call. He called every friend he had, and probably there's some here in this room that were called, and not a single one would come and get him, because guess what the date was of this crash?
April 1st.
That's why some people aren't here today.
And this started a great tradition in his life, which I was a victim of also, because occasionally on April 1st, he would call his clients and tell them that the worst possible thing they could imagine had happened.
Albert.
We all really looked forward to those calls. We got onto him after a while. But anyhow, on the sweet side, which I guess is the best side to end on, I remember, and I probably will cry. I'm more of a crier than Patty. But
Wow.
but when your mom died, he called me up one day and he said, I just want to tell you what I just did. And I said, what? And he said, well, I bought these beautiful, soft, lovely robes. And I gave one to each of my sisters. And I wrote them a poem, and I want to read it to you. And I can't remember it exactly, but he said, now that our mother is gone, I want you to wear this robe so you know that my arms are around you and helping you just the way this robe. See? Sorry. So that's the sweet side. And I have just loved the association with this beautiful family over all these years. He is the reason I have my ranch, and my ranch is the love of my life after my kids and this guy. And I wouldn't be here in Sandy Valley if it weren't for him. And so many other things he engendered in my life, and I'm very grateful. Thanks, Albert. Happy birthday.
I've had the pleasure of working with Al for the majority of my life. And I am not in this here now. I've always tried to encourage him. It's never worked. Always been family. And I selfishly feel like part of your family. And I always say that through through typing his books, through typing all his friends and family letters, through putting together photo albums, to sending care packages to Jeff and Scott when they were in college. I actually know more about your family history than I do my own. And he's also, Patty, he also helped me out of a bad relationship in my early 20s. And before Vaughn, and it led to meeting Vaughn, so everything worked out great. But I learned quickly that not to tell Al one of your problems unless you want him to swiftly fix it for you. And so after I told Al what was going on, next thing I know, he had offered up Scott to go beat him up. And then Jeff, one of your roommates, was moving in with me to pay for the rent that summer. So he swiftly fixed everything up, and the boyfriend had moved out. I had a new roommate, and everything was going great. So he's helped me more times than I can even imagine. So I want to thank you so much for that.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for everything. I love you.
I'm Rick, and some of you know this story, and it seems like I tell it every time I come here. It's sort of a measurement of what his judgment was like when he was 14 and 15.
You don't have to tell that.
He had judgment?
They lived out in the rural part of Lake Meridian area, and there was this new highway. Some of you know this. Some of you. Do I really? You can't? Okay. So they got this new highway, and I love this story. They got this new highway, supposedly a freeway being bulldozed in. It just has gravel on it behind their property, a couple miles behind their property. So Al gets one of our best friends, John, and they try out the 56 Buick that his dad and mother owned, and they were on this unpaved highway. Al has no insurance, no license, no judgment. They hit 125 miles an hour. No seat belts, just their guts. So Al had so much fun. The next time his folks asked him to babysit the family, Patty in particular, he took Patty out on the same trip.
Yeah, baby. Get it, Albert.
I mean, and that just, and again, no seat belts, no nothing. They survived, but on gravel, loose gravel, 125 miles an hour. And the guy's never driven, he doesn't have a license. He's just, 14. And I thought that was just but Patty, you really had your brother looking out for you.
They're so lucky you had your
Right.
But I could see Howie and Irene saying, well, we'll just have Big Brother take care of the kids tonight. What could go wrong?
I remember the first time I met him was at the office. This was before the breakup, because I was there before that one. And he told me, you better treat her right. Hopefully I did. I'd like to thank you, Al, for everything you've done for our family, and happy birthday, and hope we have many more.
And Chris, I'm Albert's oldest sister. I mean, I'm underneath him. I think we're not quite 2 years apart. So we can go way back before 14. Albert was a juvenile delinquent before he was and these are stories from our funny mom, but Albert ran away from kindergarten repeatedly on busy highways. He stole mail out of people's mailboxes. This was before he was out of kindergarten. And one of my favorite stories is my family called me Christine. And so Albert and I were out in the backyard, and I was probably 1 and he was 3 or something. And the sprinkler was sitting right next to the faucet. And so my mom hears it go on, and she goes out there. Albert's soaking wet, and I'm all dry. And all he says is, Christine done it! Christine done it! And Mom said he never would change his mind.
I'm still
Anyway, he is a good brother, but he really put our mom through a lot.
Hello, my name is Seg, and I'm here with my wife Debbie. We probably, from the group here, we probably know Al the least amount of time. But just listening to everybody's story about Al, it's pretty much how we feel about him too. No judgment. But when we first learned about Al, through Silky, of course, my first reaction was, that poor, poor man. He doesn't know what a bundle she is. Of course, we think the world of her. But the stamina and the zest for life that she has is certainly equaled in what Al has. So we're very happy to know you, Al. Of course, the only funny story I have is like you calling me up and say, how the hell do I pull this catheter out? So,
Albert. Tell me what you told me.
Don't do it by yourself. And that's like
So that was you.
Yeah.
He told me he had to call somebody.
Yeah. Well, Al, I say from the bottom of our heart, we love you. You're a great guy. Thank you. And thank you very much for inviting us out here.
So I have not the long story with Al, but I have a lot of funny stories within the almost 2 years we are together. So when I met Al, we were at the beginning saying, we have so much fun together, let's go down our bucket list. So I said, so what's on your bucket list? And he's like, I've done it all. And I'm like, so what are we going to do now? And he said, well, let's go down your bucket list. And I had a long one, but we are quite through now. So now we extended in the moment. And I have to say, I have never dated a guy who on my nightstand, had the manual right next to me. So while I kind of got to know Al, I had the book next to me every night to read about him. And of course, every night, every morning when we sat and had coffee, I was like, okay, let me ask you some questions about that chapter. So it was a very fun time. And I think I asked, what's a roast against a toast? And I think these were a lot of nice toasts, I would say. But the roast of us happened just last week. I think some people heard that. Al and I were having a nice weekend here, and I was cooking. And it was Friday night. And I did some vegetables, baked them in the oven, drizzled some oil above. We ate, and we sat on the couch. And suddenly we looked at each other, and we started to get a little dizzy, and his face started to change, and his nose got longer. And then I said to him, "Why are you looking so funny?" And he said, "Did you use oil for cooking?" And I said, "Yes. Why?" And he's like, "Did you use some special oil? Because there is, with the salad oil, there is another bottle that's from Larry. Larry is the guy that does all our stuff in the greenhouse and also works for the dispensary." There was an oil bottle, and I'm not educated at all in these kind of drug scenes, so I saw this bottle with all these nice labels, TCH, CB, whatever. And I thought these were all just like synonyms for herbs. So instead of doing a half of a teaspoon, as it's supposed to be, according to Jeannie's recipe, I took this much of the bottle over the... So let's cut it short. The next 24 hours we were pretty stoned. I had to call in sick on the next day. I couldn't go to work. There was no way. I wouldn't even walk out to the car. Every walk to the bathroom was kind of a long journey because it's a big hole small hole to hit. So yes, I would say we have a lot of fun together. And I'm happy I met you. That's the best. Thank you.
So I have one more.
Now comes the building.
So I'm just thrilled that Albert met Silke. And Silke, we just love you. You're just wonderful for him. Albert has never met anyone who he has more in common with. And thank God he's got another playmate, because it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. Patty, do you want to do this? Patty, do you want to do that? Now he has Silke. But about a year ago, when Silke gets all decked out, she is something. And so we're going to go to Ka, and it's me and Jenny and Albert and Silke and Sam and Ermelinda. And so Jenny and Ermelinda and I are walking behind, and Silke's all decked out, and she looks like $1 million. And Albert and Silke are walking ahead of us holding hands, and Ermelinda, who doesn't speak very much English, says to Jenny and me, "That's a lot of woman for Alberto."
This is a humbling experience to listen to all of this. Thank you so much. You know, I wake up every day at this place and think that I'm in heaven. I mean, I look out the window and I think this is heaven. I mean, you know, heaven might really be like you gotta sit around in a cloud and play a harp and stuff. Well, I don't want to do that shit. I want to be here. I like this and I love this place, and but it means nothing unless my family, my friends come and share it with me. Okay, so to have you guys here means everything. So thank you very much for coming. Let's go play some games. Okay?